Welcome, everyone. Well, we're going to jump right in. I appreciate you guys all being so prompt and using some of your off-leave time to spend time with us. My name is Daphne Strader. I'm the director of the Coordinated School Health Department for the district. And in our department, we support you and the schools that you work in with research best practices, training, coaching, tools and resources, community partnerships, all sorts of different linkages and supports specifically around attendance, community schools, family engagement, volunteer programs and special projects, including the APS Clothing Bank. So if you ever have any needs around kind of non-instructional supports, the Coordinated School Health Department is a good place to start. I'm so proud to be here today and welcome you to our first and hopefully annual summer summit for teachers. This year, our theme is about planting the seeds for engaging online, hands-on learning. We're about done with online, right? So engaging hands-on learning. So when I first dreamed about today, I thought we'd maybe get, maybe 50 teachers, especially after this year that we've all had, right? It's been a doozy. So you can guess that I'm absolutely thrilled that we have over 160 people registered, and we're 100 of those at least decided to get up early and hang out with us right now. So I just wanted to acknowledge that these numbers really show, and your dedication to come here really shows how committed, how amazing you guys all are, and the innovation that you're willing to bring to the work that you do every day. On behalf of my team and I, please know that your work and dedication is seen and really appreciated. We see that you bring passion and creativity and caring to your work every single day. And so we really want to thank you for all that you do, especially during this past year. It was a very unique year, and our sense is that the staff of APS really stepped up. So I also want to take a second to thank our fantastic presenters today. We're going to have an amazing array of presenters who've been working with STEM content, that have been working with school gardens, and have utilized school gardens in a variety of ways. And I thank you guys all for your contributions today, your lessons learned. And I think that all of the participants are going to really have time to get your interest sparked and come up with different ideas around how you can use school gardens in all of what you're doing with schools. The other lovely thing is that my guess is that all of our presenters would still be willing to support you guys beyond the Institute. So our hope is that you can make some connections with people today and us build kind of a larger community to keep this work moving. Finally, I want to thank our small planning committee. Without the amazing work of Tara Henderson from Explora, as well as Kateri Sava, Marissa Loya, Sandra Baxley, and Randy Costales from our Strategic Partnerships Unit, this event wouldn't have been able to be made possible. So thank you guys so much for a team and for bringing this together on short notice. So today, Randy, if you want to advance the slide, today we're really excited to bring you what we hope is an action-packed day of learning, as much as we can make that happen without being in person. We really hope that you can stay present and engaged throughout, knowing that we have breaks that are throughout the sessions. We have a good amount of time for lunch, a lot of time for discussion and planning and learning from each other, and you'll get tons of information and resources. After our welcomes and opening remarks, we'll have a land acknowledgement, followed by a grounding in school gardens. And then after that, you'll have a chance to listen to a panel of teachers who are focused on giving you information on ways that you can use our school gardens to support students. Then after lunch, you'll get a chance to choose between several options within a whole 7 breakout options. So depending on how much time you spend in each, you might be able to go to all 7 or multiple breakout networking sessions. And there you're going to learn, excuse me, more about kind of instructional topics. Then you're going to learn about our archive of amazing STEM lessons and resources that there's been a large number of amazing contributors to, and it's a pretty deep archive of lessons and opportunities. And you'll then get the chance to adapt 1 or 2 of those for you and your needs, and then build a plan so that you can put everything that you learned today into practice as soon as you're back with students. So our goal is to get more and more teachers and staff to utilize school gardens to support student and school goals. So we're really thrilled that not only of the amazing turnout that we're having, but that a little over 50% of you guys shared with us that you have little or no experience utilizing the school garden for instructional purposes. And so we thank you, all the newbies, for coming and for gathering information. And hopefully you'll gather that there's a large array of people that are behind you and here to support you as you move into hands-on learning using school gardens and STEM content. So really our whole notion is how you can incorporate the work and the ideas that you learned today into your work. And I think that you're going to learn today that there are a variety of ways that you can make that happen, how you can use your school gardens. It doesn't matter what size they are or what is built in them. They are all designed to support student learning. But they can also be used for activities like behavioral support, social emotional learning, family and community engagement, as outdoor learning spaces, as classroom management tools, and any other amazing ways that your mind can make up. So again, thank you so much for coming. And we hope that we have provided you with a really engaging and thought-provoking learning experience today. As an introduction to the next speaker, I really want you to know that when I told him that a group of teachers were coming to a summer institute to learn about school gardens and engaging hands-on learning resources, he jumped at the opportunity to come and say a few words to you. After all, school gardens have a real operational side, right? The actual garden part of it. And there's a variety of departments across the district, like facilities and maintenance and operations and capital outlay and real estate, that are all supporting school gardens on the operational side. But as well, we also know that school gardens can be a really powerful instructional tool. And then finally, school gardens can be a huge activator of school support to bring students into an engaged learning experience, to bring family, volunteer, and community partners into our schools, to partner with us on behalf of our students. So this person is a fantastic alignment for that, because as a native New Mexican, he's the operational support and instructional leader of the district. And with his deep years as a substitute, high school teacher, middle and high school principal, and chief operations officer, now as the superintendent, he has a unique experience and lens around the work today. So please join me in showing some appreciation and welcome for our superintendent, Mr. Scott Elder.
Good morning. Thank you, Daphne. I really appreciate that. Really kind words. So good morning and welcome to the Summer Institute on planting the seeds for engaging hands-on learning. I am excited to be here. Daphne says I jumped. If you know me, I didn't jump very high, but I did jump. And I'm glad to have a chance to say a few words about hands-on outdoor learning for our students. You know, I've been thinking about the history of APS staff developing using school gardens. For those you know, I started my career at Highland High School in 1991, and I was actually there when they built that greenhouse. They had a really spectacular greenhouse that they built, and it was really more of a project of the construction trades group there, but the greenhouse sort of became the impetus for some school gardening occurring at Highland, and it was sort of moving along for a while. And then when I went back as principal in 2010, we actually had partnered up with the East Central Missions Group, and we had built a series of planters, and we had classes that were planting and harvesting, and then using that produce in lessons in the classroom, and even some of them were selling a little bit of it to the staff. And it was a really, really good, exciting moment. But what's clear is that most of our school garden initiatives have started through the innovation and dedication of people across the district. And the opportunity has led to students accessing unique and engaging learning opportunities. But unfortunately, on the flip side, this grassroots approach developing these initiatives have also led to some differing visions around the district school gardens. So I would like to thank the staff throughout the district for coming together and continuing to build this common vision for our school gardens, as well as for supporting school staff and using them to support our students. What we are beginning to understand is that the primary reason that the district even has school gardens is to support student learning, and that they really are a powerful educational tool that can support our student learning outcomes, that can provide a welcoming learning environment, and it provides unique opportunity for schools to implement effective family and community engagement activities. So it's a great way to bring people in. And for those of you who knew, what I would say is that it's not a program. You know, I don't believe they're going to give you the 7 steps to school gardening success, but it is an opportunity or a tool and a strategy you can use you can integrate STEM, you can integrate nutrition. There's a variety of content areas, certainly including social emotional learning into your instruction. It's a great way to integrate project-based learning and hands-on learning into classroom activities. Gardens are great spaces for learning. This past year, we wanted to do a lot of learning outside. Gardens created a space where that could occur. You can introduce students to STEM careers or to agricultural careers. I think this is a big one. When I was working with cafeteria services, you know, she was doing a lot of tasting opportunities for kids to try to introduce them to a variety of different vegetables and fruits, and the gardens allow that opportunity at schools. And I think that's a real important lesson for our kids because in some of our areas of town, their opportunities are limited. So it's a great way to introduce healthy and nutritious and differing foods. And then of course, it also allows students to get a real good time, real time look at how food is grown and the skills that are needed, the patience. There's a lot of discipline in gardening. It's a great lesson for our kids. This year, I've introduced 5 pillars that we're building our strategic plan on. And I'd kind of like you to be aware of those as you think about your school garden. The first pillar is to ensure equity and access for all students and staff. And you know, gardens as an opportunity for equity are pretty obvious. I think that we, again, we can introduce foods, we can introduce concepts that maybe these kids wouldn't be exposed to otherwise. And I think that more than ever, our district needs to find innovative and engaging ways to support the child in their development and their success in our schools. So it's just another doorway to get kids in and get them engaged in the schools. Second pillar is to support high quality, equity driven instruction for each student. I hope you leave today with a clear plan of how you use your school garden and outdoor learning space to provide your students with an engaging project-based learning experience. That's the heart of high quality instruction, and having an array of teaching practices assures that every student has that opportunity to be engaged in learning. The third pillar is supporting social and emotional learning. I can't, I mean, there's so much research about the importance of being outdoors and having outdoor learning spaces. So this can support students' behavior, certainly can support your classroom management, and I think it facilitates a lot of things like problem solving, social awareness, and relationship building. And then if you're going to have a school garden, you actually have to grow something. So the fourth pillar is maintaining effective and efficient operations. And you know, there's at least 8 different departments that support school gardens. Most of them are in operations. So one of the things we bumped into is there was a lot of people who wanted to build gardens, but they ended up putting them in places that there was planning for a building or something to happen there, and we ended up having to move gardens. So looking forward, this is the type of discussion we have to have so the district's involved so that we can support the gardens effectively and not have problems later. And then the final district pillar is engaging staff and community. And I know you're going to hear great ideas and get some information and resources that I hope you will feel more engaged in some of the possibilities for you moving forward. I just think students, families, and community members can be activated to support your school garden initiative and really support student learning. So APS is committed towards working towards a vision where students are able to participate in these enriching learning opportunities using school gardens. And I really appreciate that this institute is happening, not only so you can get tools to support your work, but so that we can also all get on the same page around our school gardens. Daphne said this, but the Institute's designed to give teachers training, resources, and networking opportunities so that you can use this school garden initiative as well as our archive of STEM-related lessons as instructional tools with your students. That agenda with this was 8 breakout sessions and all the opportunities, I think you're in for a great day. And I am truly appreciative of you all being here. I'd like to thank the presenters and the planning committee. I want to thank you all for being here. I know this wasn't the easiest of school years, but the fact that you're here today shows your dedication to continually growing and bringing the absolute best for our students. So thank you. And again, welcome to the conference. I hope that each of you learned some new ideas, some new skills and activities that you can put into practice with our students, and that you leave today knowing that there's a network of people, some more behind the scenes than others, that are here supporting you to use our school gardens to support student learning and success. So have a great day, and thank you for your time.
All right. So I'm going to be introducing Summer Jones, who will be doing our land acknowledgement today. And I wanted to just start off also by saying thank you to APS for creating the space for a land acknowledgement. And I want to invite you all to, you know, of course, take in some people maybe have heard land acknowledgements before, others maybe this is your first time. So yeah, to invite you all to take in the words that are being shared and, you know, to find, I pray that you find the meaning behind them and that you also feel moved to support the people that are doing the work, you know, that are supporting the land acknowledgement and all of the other work that is being done by Indigenous people here in Albuquerque and New Mexico and beyond. So I will be posting links in the chat during and following the land acknowledgement so that you can learn more about organizations that are Indigenous led that are supporting Indigenous efforts, as well as how you can contribute and support them as well. So without further ado, I will be introducing Summer Jones. She works for she works as an early childhood teacher for the Head Start program in Isleta Pueblo, and also serves on the Isleta Elementary School Board.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Summer Jones, and like Marisa said, I'm from the Pueblo of Isleta, which is also where I work. I've been a teacher here for a year, and we have a greenhouse, which is where I am right now. I'm kind of melting, but that's okay. We have a greenhouse, and we plan to cultivate a school garden this year, so I'm very honored to be invited into this space so that I can take what I learned from everyone and share it with our littles, with our future ancestors that attend the school. So I would like to start us off with a prayer. Let's go ahead and humble ourselves and drop our gaze low. Akuam kikewe kawi, waida nakua nasuim nakamu shimbamum ay perkem. Health to you, Mother Earth. I'm asking for us a life with good intention, beauty, luck, and success with gratitude. So we started off with a prayer today because I believe it's a very powerful way to set intentions. I spoke in my language to honor my ancestors who were not allowed to speak in school for decades. And also because all languages contain healing vibrations. The first word I used was waide, wa. Notice that first syllable. It is one of the most powerful sounds that we can make. And you'll hear babies say, ah, it comes innately to us. When we do that, we're learning how to regulate ourselves because that sound ah creates a vibration that is connected to our central nervous system. And it's really cool because we naturally know how to regulate our own stress response. Another reason for prayer is to cultivate a sense of humility and respect for where we are situated in the world. And even where the world is situated within the universe is a gift in itself, because not every being gets to experience what we do on this earth. So other longer prayers will also begin with asking for forgiveness of not being aware of the many layers of existence and spirits that are around us, but unknown to us, that there's this existence of truth beyond us. The last thing I want to say about prayer is that reciprocity is usually offered. For Pueblo people, we normally take cornmeal or corn pollen and sprinkle it as we pray. And that's because for us, corn is a very special plant. Without corn, we would not be who we are as Pueblo people. And without human intervention, corn would not be who she is. She would not come in the many colors she comes in. And so after having planted, harvested, and grinded our corn down into cornmeal, we always give a little back to generate that sense of reciprocity and humility. And now I'll get into the more into the land acknowledgement. Albuquerque Public Schools are situated in Tiwa land. To the north, we have Sandia Pueblo, Thurshire, Thur-I, and to the south here where I am, the south of Albuquerque is Isleta Pueblo, Chiawith, Doiti. Presently, there are 19 pueblos up and down the Rio Grande Valley, but before colonization, dozens of pueblos existed and cared for the land. So our relationship to the land extends beyond the boundaries of our villages and even of our reservation lines. This means that we have always had to be in tune with the natural cycles that we live within to survive this beautiful but also harsh desert. In Pueblo culture, the elements such as earth, water, air, space, and fire are spirits, and they also have genders with roles and responsibility. So in honor of Pride Month, I'd like to uplift our LGBTQ and Two-Spirit peoples, because when we can recognize the plethora of energetic power that people have, we recognize that those powers also come with responsibility. And when we can harness that energetic power, we create harmony and balance. So there are a multitude of ways to connect to the land and to each other. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the health disparities and outcomes for our communities. A long, healthy life is no accident, And pre-colonization, Indigenous people were active and living well into their 90s and 100s. Colonization has disrupted those long, healthy lives, and that began with genocide, that continued with the forced removal of our children from their families, their language, their ways of connecting, and placing them into residential or boarding schools. Presently, the health of our communities of color continue to suffer due to herbicide or the destruction and pollution of our city and land. And just as we have a physical, spiritual, emotional, intellectual body, Mother Earth does too. Traditionally, we measured our health through the health of the earth to gain insight and knowledge about how to take care of ourselves and how to take care of the world around us. Because the world has more intelligence than we do. And by tuning into it, we learn how to adapt and how to evolve. And we see this disconnection of land and to each other within education as well. There's been an enforced gender binary. Science, reading, and writing are not taught in the context of farming or land caretaking, or even with the perspective sometimes that our children are intelligent and their curiosity and self-expression is a unique gift. So I have a call to action for you all today. Even the colonizers' court system has recognized through the Ozzie Martinez case that we are doing an injustice to our students because the public school system has failed to provide quality, culturally and linguistically relevant education for our multicultural students, for our beautifully diverse people that reside here in this state. So my call to action for you is to uplift your students and their voices. Welcome their identities and their people's histories into the classroom. Ask them what they know, ask them what they want to learn about. Provide them with that attitude of collaboration. Our students need the space to express themselves so that they can generate those healing vibrations, to self-regulate and to connect themselves with others. Remember, many schools were created to silence and conform our students to a disconnected way of being, and we have the power to change that as educators. And that's one of the intentions I have also set for myself as an early childhood educator. So please learn more about the history of New Mexico, the truths that exist here, both the harsh reality of how destructive and exploitive our history has been, but also the beauty and the richness of the cultures that reside here and have been alive for centuries. I'll go ahead and reference a book. It's called Environmental Justice of New Mexico. It's by Valerie Rangel. It's a great resource for learning New Mexico specific history about environmental injustices, and it's appropriate for high schoolers, for middle school. Another super easy way, another call to action to show support is by shopping at local farmers markets or the co-op. You can always provide them and other organizations with monetary donations. You can also consult Indigenous people, invite them to bring their knowledge into your classes and pay them for their work. Some really great organizations that might offer workshops or can provide resources and support for you are organizations like Public Action Alliance. They're at the forefront of environmental issues here in New Mexico. There's also the Native Community Health Network. That's a program that specializes in sexual and reproductive health education in Indigenous communities. And I throw this one in there because I believe we should really be teaching our students about consent and normalizing reproductive health, and that can tie into farming and gardening. There's also Welfare Culture, their Wellness Native Initiative, Indigenous Wellness Initiative. There's Yes Magazine. That's a magazine that comes out of the Pacific Northwest. It's written by Indigenous authors, and it also provides solutions for environmental issues. And right now, the largest urban wildlife refuge is being built here in Albuquerque. It's at the South Valley, the northern border of Isleta Pueblo. It's called the Valle de Oro. They are building beautiful outdoor spaces. And they're also consulting our communities to create these spaces and develop environmental justice curriculum. Right now, they're reaching out to community asking for signatures to sign a petition for an asphalt plant that's in the works and will definitely negatively impact our communities and surrounding communities. So I also have on here CESOS, the organization CESOS, owns the curriculum called Ciclos de la Tierra. And so look out for that. It's a beautifully written curriculum full of culture, and it's specific to New Mexico. And last but not least, I want to shout out Families United for Education, or FUE. They are a decentralized organization who works with families and community to find ways that best support our children and combat racism within APS. So thank you everyone for being present to learn about school.
Sorry, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm so sorry that we missed Summer. Let's take a second to lift her up and thank her for her great remarks. And you know, that's doing training online. Hopefully that'll be the last time that happens today. So know that we all thank you, Summer. I hope that you can hear us, and sorry that your words got cut off. We appreciate what you had to say. So Tara, are you gonna move into the next phase?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, so I'm Tara Henderson. I'm with Explora, and sort of following up on land acknowledgement and thinking about where we live, and also building community. We're going to be breaking everyone into breakout rooms. There'll be 2 or 3 people in your room. In your room, we'd like you to share a little bit about yourself. So very quickly, your name, title, school, organization, but really take the time to share where you live, how long have you lived there, and one thing you like about your community. We'll be in the breakout rooms for 6, 7 minutes or so, so a couple minutes per person. So where you live, how long you've lived there, and one thing you like about your community. So you should be invited to join a breakout room here and enjoy connecting and sharing.
Do we have everybody back yet?
Yes, we should have everyone back. So welcome back. Thank you for taking the time to share with others in your space where you lived and what you like about your community.
Well, hello, everyone. My name's Nestor, and I also go by Randy Costales. I'm with APS, Coordinated School Health Department. And our next session is going to talk about School Gardens 101, planning and building an effective and sustainable school garden initiative. And I'm going to be joined, we have 4 of us that are presenting, myself, Marisa Loya, who's our food corps service member, Kateri Sava, our school garden facilitator specialist, and Isa Patterson, who's with New Mexico State University Extension Program, and we're going to cover different topics. The topics I'm going to cover are the purposes of a school gardens and APS, and also what the components of our initiative. So let me just start right away with, so as Superintendent Elder did mention, that these are, the purpose of our gardens and APS is, again, to support student learning and outcomes, provide a welcoming learning environment, provide an opportunity for schools to implement effective family and community engagement activities towards student and school outcomes. And you're going to hear some examples from people later today about how they're doing that. So I don't want to spend too much time on that, but that's the purposes, again, to support student learning. And here at the district, we are trying to build, we have a strategic plan, what we call our school garden initiative. And there's three major levels that we're trying to support school gardens with here in our district. First of all, you have the district level. As Superintendent Elder has indicated, there are probably 8 different departments that support or have come into contact with school gardens. And at the district level, what we're trying to do is make sure that all of those departments are speaking to each other and are working together to make sure that there's no confusion, so that, as he indicated, if somebody has planned something for a space, that it's not, that it can't happen because there's already been plans for, say, a new building there or a parking lot, whatever. So we're trying to build those processes among the different departments within APS so that we can have a streamlined, effective, and efficient process for creating, expanding, and sustaining school gardens. And then, of course, at the school level, what we're trying to do also is encourage schools to develop school garden teams that would come up with a vision for the school garden and come up with a way to how they're going to utilize those gardens. And you're going to get more information from Kateri on that. Instead of it just being one teacher. And what we've learned from some of our surveys and conversations with teachers is that it's somewhat intimidating to think, if I start doing stuff in the garden, it's just going to fall on me. And we really want to get away from that notion by getting schools to think about creating that school garden team. And then the third level, of course, is providing support to teachers and other APS staff. And that today, our institute is an example of professional development, providing support to the people that are working within the schools. So those 3 levels all are important, and we are working on those even as we speak. And I'm going to turn it over to Marisa.
All right. So why and what gardens can be used for is something that I feel like has been kind of sprinkled in people's intros and talks up until now. But I guess just to kind of paint a picture for you all, you know, educators, district staff, everybody here, we're all here to ultimately support our students, and you know, by default, of course, we're supporting our families that are been supporting our students. So, you know, the beautiful thing about gardens is that they can be, you know, integrated into all levels, from families all the way down to the district. So when we're thinking families and students, we're thinking, you know, having a place that you know, there's that sense of belonging that students and families hold to the school. And it's, you know, it's like a beautiful meeting space, especially now that we're going to be able to start having our families come back on campus and working with our students again. Like a beautiful meeting place to share a space where everybody's working on gardening, or the families can visit and say, hey, this is like this beautiful visual representation of what my students are learning, what they're doing together in class, which, you know, in a way goes into how the schools are benefiting, because it again provides a space for the collective to be together. And as we will get into later on, and as other people have said before, you can teach anything from STEM to art to history and culture to, you know, and then of course bringing in those like traditional cultural ties as well. There's just a plethora of learning opportunities. And then in terms of community, it really helps you to kind of gauge like who in my community knows how to garden, who has resources to help me as an educator, or me as maybe a school staff, further the garden and make it as beautiful as it can be. And of course, you're just continuously garnering more support from everybody that is included in the garden. And of course, in terms of the district, it's a space for the district to tune in to what the schools and the families needs are, as well as how they can be a further support for supporting school cooperation, creativity, and growth.
And now we have Kateri Sava.
All right. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Really glad to see some faces that I know here and some new faces. I'm here to talk to you about school garden teams. Sorry, I got kicked out for a sec. So yeah, it's pretty simple. You just have to work with a group of people in the garden on really hard task, or work out there by yourself once to realize that it's really hard to do it by yourself and humbling. So, I mean, what do I want to say? Usually we have like someone at a school who's really, really passionate about gardening, and they have like this confidence, right? To put a seed in the ground, to water it, to let things die, to let things grow. And maybe that's just because they have more experience. Some people have had a hard time getting other people involved at their school. So instead of just talking at you, I'd rather, if everyone could lift some stuff up in the chat here. What's something that you do to increase the spirit of teamwork in the garden space? What are some tricks that you've done, or some advice that you can share with the whole group to engage more people? I'll just start talking. Planning a community work day is a great way to start. We call it a crop mob. I think I learned that from Travis. It's essentially where all of the students or the people get together around a row and weed something very quickly together. And just that, that spirit of teamwork, working out there for a day together, getting something done and feeling proud of it, sharing food together. All of these things can really just be like a spark to getting more folks involved. Let's see. We've got Jamie. Everyone just watering lifts everyone's spirits and gets people excited about tending the land. Totally. And we can share that duty of watering. Once we had a group shopping trip, love it. Just going around to different spots. We don't have any funding for school gardens at this point, so it's definitely nice to go around with a buddy to all the nurseries and Lowe's and Home Depots, to ask for tools and donations. Community school-wide Earth Day. Earth Day is great, taking advantage of different events throughout the school year and using those as kind of like markers, or like milestones for the garden, having something to look forward to. You could also plan around how you're going to harvest and then what event you're going to have. We had one school, Governor Bent, has a huge pumpkin patch, and they take the gardens and have a big festival around pumpkins in the fall. So asking teachers to commit to one day where their classes are in charge of the watering, totally sharing the duties. Just right down from the beginning, like I like to encourage people, sit down and draw it out, sit in the space, how does energy move through the space? Draw those things out together, create a plant list together. I've joined a lot of community school councils, which are really great. Community school leaders do an awesome job of just bringing people together. So that might be another tip for you. Jen Lee at Colette Park Elementary said, we used to have families sign up for school ground garden days once a month. Love it. From Summer Jones, thank you to everyone who is present to learn and help repair our education system. Rock on, Summer, and thank you so much for that. very powerful land acknowledgement and lifting up some really important truths in the beginning today. Marisa said, just asking for input and making connections with staff and schools. From your connections with them, they become more interested in seeing all the great things that are being done in the garden. Yes. Ms. Quesada, we used it as a team bonding and service learning for our student athletes and their families. Cool. Yeah, start small, start with a small group. Crystal Carmichael said we got MESA teams to help build a drip system to make watering easier. We have several teachers that took turns in afternoon watering the garden and keeping it maintained. Heck yeah. And over at Hawthorne, they're actually teaming up at different schools. So that's another thing I've seen too, is different schools will partner up. So if you don't feel supported by other folks at your school, you can try to find a school that's close to you with a garden and buddy up and have work days. Also, you know, that's a great way to have mentorship for older and younger students. Engaging neighborhood association and neighbors. ESJ used to have a group of neighborhood men who would water in the summer and sit and chat. It was a beautiful thing. Love it. Yeah, community school councils. Holding some small events in our community garden increases awareness of opportunities. PT has recently, and it was very nice to spend time in the garden. Cool. So thanks for all your thoughts, and I just wanted to lift up some quick tips. Definitely always great to have the custodian on your team. And just a fun fact is they also have a small budget. So especially if they're into the gardening and they want to support, you could maybe work with them to buy some tools for the garden space or use that budget as like yearly maintenance. I definitely recommend just being nice to the M&O guys, you know, like M&O definitely needs to get on board with supporting the gardens, but the guys who go out to the gardens are so overworked and they just like, you know, need some major changes too. So those guys are awesome. And I definitely just want to lift that up because sometimes it's hard in this work. We're trying to build power institutionally to support gardens and really, you know, have, you know, funding and personnel support, people. And at the same time, like we are all about relationship building, right? So we want to make sure that our hearts are in the right place and that we're really, you know, doing the truth of this work, which is, you know, treating people kindly and building relationships with them. So a great way to do that was free veggies. And that's all I got. I think I'm going to pass it along to Nisa Patterson, a mentor of mine. Thank you so much for being here. She's going to give us some tips on school garden design.
Hi, this is Nisa, and I'm on to talk about garden design. I'd like to share my screen. Possible? It says disabled, host disabled screen sharing.
Let me try to get it for you.
So anyways, while doing that, my name is Nisa. I work for Bernalillo County Extension, and my job is to support school gardens and community gardens. And so I collaborate a lot with the staff at APS who are supporting school gardens. And I'd like to just say right up front that if you're, you know, already have a garden or thinking about starting one, there's this big question that sort of looms around, how do I design this? What is it going to look like? You know, how do I design it both for, I think about usually 3 groups of people, which is, I think about the students, what do they need out of the design? What do the teachers need out of the design? And what do the plants need out of the design? So there's a lot to think about there. And so I just, as you enter into a design process, or even if you're looking at expanding your garden, you really kind of can approach it from those different directions. And if you're not sure, I'm always available to come and just look at your space and think about all the different elements you can put in your space. So my information is going to be on my slide. It still says that I can't share my screen.
Do you have the files I could share?
It's
For you,
just
Lisa?
it's our general presentation that we did at the conference. Yeah, and it's, I think, slide like 34. I start. Sorry about that. So anyways, when you're thinking about your site, you're going to be thinking about your site selection. You know, what place do you put it on campus? And a lot of times you don't even have a choice, right? So sometimes you go to your principal and you're told, like, that corner over there. In fact, I've been working with School Gardens about 20 years, but 10 years more focused. And generally I find that teachers will be sort of given an area, like, hey, that corner over there is really good. And so if you want, if you want help thinking about that, that site you're given, because sometimes the sites that are designated for School Gardens aren't the ideal site. Sometimes they're pretty rough. And so here's a picture. Here's a picture up. Sorry, can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. It seems slow here. Okay. Kateri, can you go to the slide before that? Because what I want to show you is that sometimes the site you're given when you're given a School Garden site isn't necessarily the ideal site for plants. And sometimes it's not even the ideal site for kids. Sometimes the site that you're given is really hot. And that's something we run into a lot when we're thinking about design, is that the site can be really hot. There's not shade. And so it can make it hard to take groups of students out there. Sometimes the site is small. Sometimes the site is really compacted, where the ground is really hard, and it makes it hard to even think about, how do I start here? How do I get plants to thrive in this environment where the ground is really hard? And so you have to really sometimes have a lot of time to work on the site that you're given. And what plants are you going to need to be able to put in this site? How are we going to take care of them in the summer? So the design of School Gardens takes in all of these different topics and just trying to bring them together. The other topic that I would really like you to orient to is that we need to get the site ready to grow plants, right? But we also need to get the site developmentally appropriate for young people. And in my years working with School Gardens, I would say this is the area that I see the sort of least attention paid to, is that the way that young people want to move around School Gardens is very different than the way adults often design them. And so children have a natural inclination to touch things and to even taste things. It's like when you go to a store and they're just reaching on either side of the aisle. And I'm talking about, elementary school age children, even young children. And I really appreciate the way Summer was bringing in sort of some of the things that we understand about the nervous system of human beings. We know a lot now about both a healthy nervous system and a traumatized sort of nervous system, and anywhere in between. But healthy children regularly reach out and touch everything around them. That is something that we need to see as very normal. So how can you design the garden in a way that it's completely natural and normal for the young person to do that inclination, even through high school? Children, I still call them children, but young people want to touch, they want to taste. And so think about that designing that garden environment in a way that is completely built in, that they can do that. And so when we do very linear raised beds, that's a little bit less of an exciting environment to do that touch and that explore than when we do a different kind of design. So let me show you that. So this is the kind of garden that you may be, site that you may be given. This is what the Bandelier Elementary, Mary Irwin many years ago went to her principal and said, what kind of site can I have? And this is the site she was given. This is a very challenging site, but over the years, this is just one corner of the garden. She transformed what was a very difficult site into a very nice seating area for part of the garden. So I just want to say there's hope for even really challenging sites. Let's do the next slide. Okay, so this is the way that we often approach the design of school gardens, and there's nothing wrong with linear raised beds. They can be really effective for growing vegetables. This is at East San Jose. Talking about engaging community, these beds were funded by, I believe, Johnson & Johnson, which is a factory in the community. And the other advantage of raised beds is that you can groups of students around them. So you can say, okay, you 5 go over there and you 4 go over there. But they're a little bit less engaging in terms of this developmental need of exploration. So let's go to the next slide. The other advantage of raised beds is that you can kind of put in a very linear water system, like a drip system. But if we look at our next slide, okay, this is also another raised bed. Next one. This is at John Adams. And you can see that the plants can really thrive in this raised bed environment. The other advantage is you can see how hard that ground is, right? So if you're in a site where the ground is really hard, raised beds can be really helpful to just say, I'm not going to deal with that soil. I'm gonna go above. However, if we go to the next slide, we can see that this wander and touch feeling that children naturally have, that young people have, and I would say even adults, that if you check in with yourself on the last slide and this slide and ask yourself which one kind of draws you in, which one do you want to like go explore in, you're going to get your own feeling about that. Now maybe you're a very linear person and you really like the organization of those raised beds, but maybe you really are invited by environments where you can wander around and see what's going on, because children want to pick, they want to touch. These are all kids in local schools. Okay, next slide. Keep going there, whoever's doing that. I don't know who's doing it. Okay, so here's the ultimate wander, right? Sandia High School has this wetlands. And so I wouldn't necessarily call that a garden. This is a really expensive garden, this picture here. This is the Edible Schoolyard in California. But both the last slide with Sandia High School where they have a wetlands and this one, what you immediately feel is, oh, wow, I just want to go all around and see what we can see. So if we could get to the point in Albuquerque Public Schools where we have gardens that look like this one, that can invite the community in, this would be a great place to have a community event. This is a great place to teach. This is a great place to meet the developmental needs of children, which is to wander and explore. I really hope that we begin to move towards that. Next slide. Because I think what we really need to do is see that the naturalness of these environments in terms of children wanting to, and if you think of exploration as, and touching and tasting if it's safe, right? You want to teach kids around safe tasting. That is the beginning of scientific inquiry. I really want us to see that curiosity as an entree into what is the next academic skill that we can start to build on that curiosity. So, okay, so what does that smell like? Let's journal that. How do we describe the aromatic properties that you were just smelling in that? You know, how do we describe what you were just tasting? Because scientists have that touch, feel, explore thing, and we need to help children see your natural inclinations. They're really can be built into something that is academic, that is a career. It's normal, it's natural. What you're doing is really valuable. And so this is what kind of a wild garden can look like in our Albuquerque area. This is Sandia Prep. It's a little bit harder to get those really lush gardens because in our environment, because they're so dry. Okay, next slide. So if we could just kind of click through the next ones, I want you to see some design elements. So if we could just kind of keep going, because we often will just have things that look like this, right? We just are given a little bed and it's struggling. And what I want to say about struggling plants is that, oh, a little slower. What I want to say about struggling plants is that's okay, that sometimes we're just given a little bed and our plants are struggling. And that's part of the scientific method too. It's like really trying to figure out what's going on here. And so you can use that natural inclination of young people to kind of feel the struggling plants and figure out, well, what's going on with the crunchiness here? What is that? And all of that. So let's also acknowledge that not all of our garden design is going to be incredibly beautiful. Okay, keep going. But there's value in exploring even struggling plants. So so as teachers, you also have needs for the garden. And those needs are for your children to focus. And so seating is a big part of that. So there's lots of different ways to do low cost seating. And these are some options. There's Inez, they just got some stumps. But this is a really good way to stage your kids and move your kids around the garden, is by having some seating. It helps with the regulation of your classroom, because although they do want to get out there and touch and feel, sometimes we need to calm them down, and and get them to focus. And this is a really good way. Next slide is to have your seating ready for them. So I'm just going to show you a few more slides, thinking about some design elements, because you need to have them seated, but once they're seated, there's also the instructional side. And so what do you need as a teacher for effective instruction? So the last slide had, different boards that you can look at. So yeah, if you go back one more. I think we have a lag here, sorry guys. So what instructional materials are you gonna need to make your teaching effective? There's a whiteboard, there's a chalkboard. Do you like to draw? This can be very helpful for explaining plants, the scientific parts of plants. You wanna draw things and label them, or you want to put some vocabulary words up there, or you want to describe. I remember years ago at Cibola, they had a special education teacher who had a giant composting operation. I mean, it was genius. It was incredible. And they brought all these restaurant stuff in, and then the kids did this huge composting operation, and then they sold the compost. Well, I went in to visit, and the kids in the special education classroom went up to the whiteboard, and they were writing out equation for rates of decay that they had learned, that they needed to learn for their compost operation. And so I think that we can reincorporate a lot of science and a lot of different levels, but what tools do we need when we're teaching? If you want to teach rates of decay and you want to show them the equation, you need something there to write it down on. And that can be really helpful to have outside, not just in your classroom. Okay, so let's go to the next one. And then you also just might think about places to put your vegetables that you harvest, and wash things and wash hands and do the sanitation. There's a sanitation aspect of your design that I'd really like you to think about. And the last slide I have.
I mean, this crew's like 5 or 6, and then the girls group is like,
our group. They're not from our school, right?
they're
We can
not
hear
from
you
our
guys.
oh,
We can
actually
hear you
one
guys.
of them is going to go here next year.
Okay, so my last slide is just designing for water retention and plant health. So there's sort of like the developmental needs of kids, which is to explore and touch. There's your teaching needs. What do you need to teach effectively? There's the kids' needs to be organized and sit down. I also want to point out that when they sit down, they might need some shade as we get hotter and hotter in our climate. But there's all those needs, and those are all design aspects. There's also the needs of the plants, which as we get hotter and hotter and as drought increases in the Southwest, we really need to think about water saving in your environment. And I just put some ideas down here, really watering at the bookend of the day, really early morning, late night, using mulch to keep that water in, watering deeply, shade from that western sun, anything we can do in gardening to keep that, to have that garden shaded in the afternoon is really important. And this is an area where I don't expect you to know instantly what are the practices for plant health, but just know that at County Extension, there's my email. This is our expertise, is how to work with plants, and we're available to you to come look at your garden. If it's struggling and the plants are not doing well, we can really help you think about your soil and your water and what's going wrong there. So that's all the time I have, but I just wanted to kind of pique your interest with all the different aspects of school garden design. And it's not always just raised beds in a line. It's lots of different things. So thank you, everybody. And wherever you're at on your journey with school gardens, there's people here to help you.
All right, thank you so much, Nisa. So I just wanted to share with everyone. I just made anyways, for the next 15 minutes, we are going to share some resources and take a little break, up and stretch, get some water, do whatever you got to do. I'm going to put in the chat Jamboard, which maybe you can help me find that, Tara. Questions. looks like we've got it here. So Tara just put the Jamboard. Thank you, Tara, in the chat. Basically, we just invite you to add questions to this Jamboard so that we can share the answers together. And then also later in the day, we're gonna have some facilitator and networking sessions. And so might be a good place to share those questions. It's view only. All right, let me make that. Thank you for waiting in this awkwardness. All right, so now everyone should have access to that. There's just some question ideas on there. You're welcome to scroll through. I also wanted to share, I made a document with all the resources that Summer shared earlier, and I invite you all to add the resources that are shared throughout the day today to this document, the second document that I'm going to put in there. I will also add Nisa's presentation if anyone is interested in looking at that. Is anyone having trouble accessing the Jamboard? So Jesse said if you opened it, you're going to need to close it and reopen it to refresh it, reload. Too many people are on it, huh? All right, well, I guess we're just gonna have to take turns, or maybe I could share my screen. Anyone else have any suggestions?
Yeah, I think sharing your screen and then we could just take people's responses or something.
Do people want to talk about these questions now, or would you like to take some moments of silence here? Oh, it looks like people are already adding to it. So we have, what questions or needs do you have? How to balance summer growing season with the school year? Awesome question. What are the exact steps to get the process of a school garden started? Eisenhower does not have one, but we do have lots of possible space. Ideas for gathering a team. What have others done? Does anyone want to answer any of these questions? Feel excited about answering any of them right now? One thing I have about the summer growing season is that, you know, like, and this is, you know, an indigenous way of being that is not claimed by school gardens. But basically the fact that we can grow all year long, right, in New Mexico. And so sometimes we like focus on like this idea that like we just grow things in the spring, and then when the summer comes, students go home and they don't get to harvest. But you know, we have all these amazing opportunities to be planting throughout the year, and so hopefully you can really lean into that as you learn more and gain more experience with how to do that.
Kateria, I'd also like to say that it's part of your design considerations if you'd like to grow through the winter, that there's lots of structures we can put in place, low cost structures to keep growing all year round.
For sure. Let's see, in terms of funding, I usually send out a grant every month, a different school garden grant. A few gardens this year were funded by the foundation. The foundation puts out, APS Foundation puts out grants every year for school-wide beautification. And so a lot of school gardens received funding through that. you know, just asking for donations, having your APS letterhead and going around. Yes, is there a list of contacts that we can have to ensure that we are starting out with approval and funding ideas? And I'm going to answer that one in relation to what are the steps or process of getting a school garden started. We have a doc here that you can start to browse. Usually the next step there is going to be to reach out to the school garden specialist and schedule a site visit so that you can walk around and see what's the best location, where's the water, where do we need to do a spot check. Bridget, I see your hand is up.
I'm not sure if you're, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. That was like a while ago, but something that I wanted to say in terms of planting in summer and how you get things to survive, that's a great place for having community partnerships. Right? If you have people in the neighborhood who are able to come and care for your garden, you have families of the students who are able to come and care for the garden. Definitely, like, for sure that's part of the planning, right? Are there going to be people to take care of the garden? But that's just a really great opportunity to then lean into those other networks that are super important in being able to have a successful school garden, right? Your partnerships with neighbors, partnerships with other nonprofits, families. So I just wanted to put that in as a plug. Like, that's a good way to ensure that the garden will be healthy in the summer.
Definitely. Thanks so much, Bridget. Lifting up partnerships is a way to keep gardens thriving all year long. Marisa, did you want to pick a question?
I just want to remind everyone that there's a second option. If you go at the top and you click the right arrow, if there's not enough room for questions or resources, you can add that there. There's also other elements around ideas and resources. So make sure that you think throughout the slides that are there, the Jamboards that are there.
Awesome. Thanks for pointing that out.
And certainly we won't probably, as this is like scheduled for a break, get to all of the questions and answers right now, but we will definitely keep monitoring them as the day progresses. And you guys can feel free to add your own resources and ideas as well.
Let's see, this one looks interesting. My principal is concerned about growing and distributing the produce from the school gardens. Would like to have information on guidelines for that. Cool. So we can go to the live binder, which we're going to talk about later in the day today. But this is kind of like a little resource page for school gardens, different resources here. If you click on national teaching resources, you can click on tasting, eating, food safety. We've sorted it by local, national, and international. And there's a couple of resources here that show how to handle food safely and process it to go through the garden. Another great person to reach out about that would be the Farm to School Network. Alicia Chavez might be someone to contact. I think she's on the call right now. Another person is Kendall Chavez. I'm not sure what her official title is, but she's the, she used to be in my position and now she's like a farm to school coordinator for PED. And she's definitely a great person to reach out to. I will put her contact in the chat.
We can also help at Extension. We do a lot with food. If the issue is food safety, there's lots of helpers, and I think that's what Kahir is lifting up, is all these people who can help with food safety. If the issue is like, if you want to sell the produce, there's a little process you need to go through with registering with the city environment department. If you want to sell produce, you need to you need to register with the city environment department, and I can help with that. Just because it then needs to be traceable. You know, if you sell something and then like something had a foodborne illness, we need to kind of know, you know, have some information documented about. So it depends kind of what the principal is concerned about. It's solvable though.
Let's look at some ideas. We just got possibly get local businesses to sponsor a school garden, somewhat like business sponsor Little League teams for show. I just learned that Bernalillo Public Schools have a partnership with Alameda Greenhouse now to grow all the plants for their school gardens. And I just think that's awesome. So maybe when you're applying for grants too, think about what partnerships you can form in those grants to provide kind of like continued maintenance. You know, once you get this garden started, you pretty much just need to maybe buy a few things every year. So just thinking about how to be self-sustainable. We've got 2 raised hands. Who is it? Benjamin?
Yes, hello.
Hey.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was just cruising through the questions column, and I saw interested in starting a garden. What would be the first steps to start? Select a best space. And it says here a small garden. Well, at Polk Middle School, Mr. McKenzie, we're blessed to have as one of the major proponents and community leaders there at Polk that is able to bring in resources and his own knowledge to our students and to our community or school garden. We started a very small one at first, right in front of the science labs. And his idea was we could always incorporate STEM and all types of scientific inquiry around, you know, the school garden just to start. And there was already some small raised beds there. So we just kind of brought life back to them. And that area, as we were looking, me and Mr. McKenzie were looking around, we're like, this area has full sun. So it'd be good for like hot peppers and chiles and yellow hots and things. And this area has not as much full sun. So maybe some like herbs, you know, maybe some small things like rosemary and basil and things like that that can go into some salsas. You know, so we were thinking of some like community food, honestly, 100% honest. Like the first thing I thought of was what kind of delicious dishes can we make out of all of this produce and out of all of this, you know, homegrown stuff. And we were figuring these type of like cultural foods. And we decided kind of based on where the sun fully hits and where we have partial sunlight. So if you are trying to choose a space, consider what you're trying to grow first. Just think to yourself, I want to grow this, 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 and this. Do a little bit of Google searching and find out what thrives most in the full sun. Some plants are partners. So roses and garlic are a lovely partnership if you want something pretty and something to eat. The garlic and the roses get along really, really well. There's other plants that are partners, like I believe is beans and tomatoes, because the tomato stalk is very strong and then the bean kind of likes to curl around it. So you're growing a couple of things at once. Just kind of considering what you want to grow first and then choosing the best possible spot. If you need stuff like, you know, corn, anything that's full sun, you want somewhere hot all day long. You know, if you want some chile that's just going to like be on the high on the Scoville scale, definitely pick an area that's going to get 100-degree weather all summer long. And you're really going to get some hot Carolina Reapers or any of those jalapenos or yellow hots. Talk about or habaneros. You know, we all want habaneros for our really, really strong salsas or chiles, the chile de árbol. Those are really good too. So anytime anybody's thinking some hot stuff, think hot weather. So we are that. Just a little shout out to that question. Hopefully I helped a little bit.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just love the way your face lights up when you talk about Chile. So thank you for sharing that knowledge. Definitely considering what plants like to grow together and what microclimates they like. Cool. So we'll continue with this later. I'm going to pass it to Marisa, and we're going to go ahead and get started with the panel discussion.
Is there a way to spotlight multiple people? Is that a thing?
I think just on the webinar, but I'm not.
You should be able to spotlight multiple people. Just go over their head and click them.
Yeah.
don't think I have that ability now that I'm looking.
Do you just want to spotlight Lanaya, Bridget, and
Lynn? Mm-hmm. Okay, I see Lynn. I see Lanaya. Hey. I see me.
and not sure I could do Bridget since her camera is off.
Oh no. Okay. We'll do our best. No worries. Okay. Well, welcome everybody to this next portion. Can I have everybody mute? Thank you. Or is it me? I'm hearing myself. Sorry. Anyway, so for the panel, we're just gonna ask a couple of different questions, and I'll let everybody introduce themselves, but it's just to kind of get some insight from some people on the ground working with students from all different levels and backgrounds and experiences. So if you all just want to take a quick minute to introduce yourselves. Oh, I see Bridget's coming in from her iPhone. Yeah, so Lynn, Lanaya, you want to introduce yourselves really quick so we can get started?
Hi, I'm Lynn Schuler, Hawthorne Elementary School. I've been teaching 5th grade there for the last 3 years, and I just retired as of last week and started a garden program at the school.
Thanks.
I'm Lanaya now. I teach 1st grade at Hawthorne, and I'm taking over Lynn's project.
Awesome. And did we get Bridget back on?
Hello, my name is Bridget Yanis, and I'm the project coordinator and facilitator for the Bernalillo County Urban Ag Project. I'm working predominantly at Van Buren Middle School, and yeah, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Bridget. Great. So, focus of the panel today is to find opportunities to use and support the school garden. So can each of you share how the school gardens are used by the school community and other ideas that you have for how gardens can benefit the students, staff, and families at your schools? Bridget. Okay, go ahead, Lynn. That's great.
For me, it was opportunities to get both the students and the staff outside to do physical activities. I wanted them to see the campus as more than just classrooms, the cafeteria, the playground. One of my experiences with working in the garden is that the physical activities in the garden are more cooperative than on the play structure, where we frequently have combats and things like that. So that's that garden space just to seem to incorporate more cooperative behavior among the kids. And I wanted to plant items where they could transfer their learning experiences to the home environment and encourage other family members to plant at home to learn follow through, such as watering and harvesting, and learn where food comes from. I know I worked with New Mexico Agricultural and Culture in the classroom in the past, and I've done some activities with them in my classroom, and it is amazing. The students' perspective of where food comes from, which is basically the grocery store, and just not have any connection of how it gets to the grocery store. And parents seem to love the idea of seeing their children working in the garden. I know where our garden is, there's a drop-off pickup area for the parents, for their kids. And we've gotten a lot of positive responses from the parents, just loving to see the garden and knowing the kids are out there doing it. And I know just even this year, I had a student who was struggling with focus in the classroom. And when I told his mother how much he loved the garden and loved working in there and just loved being physical, she agreed with me that, yeah, he loves it.
Lanaya, do you want to follow up?
One of the things I really like about having the school garden is the connection that we have with the children from the abstract when we're trying to teach about science and the growth of plants to the concrete. And so usually when we're teaching, we kind of go the opposite direction. We usually start with the concrete and move towards the abstract, but with science, sometimes it's the opposite. And so it's really been great to have the garden there to have the students make those connections of seeing what we can draw and the songs and the skits and the things that we've learned about how to grow plants, and then actually seeing what that looks like in the garden. I would just echo what Lynn said about kids having an understanding of where food comes from, and then them understanding, that the seeds that they have from the plant, from the fruits and vegetables that they eat, is designed to help produce more fruits and vegetables. And then how do we put those seeds in a space or a place that they can become productive to produce that. So it's been a really great connection for students, especially at the younger age, to see that concrete learning put directly into play.
Bridget?
Yeah, I'm thinking about belonging and how important having a school garden is for children to feel belonging, for anyone really to feel belonging. When I first learned about school gardens, I was an 8th grader, and my life science teacher decided to have a school garden. And I was somebody who definitely felt like an outsider all the time, just didn't fit in. And being able to be in the garden with others and be working next to them, regardless of whatever was craziness going on in my house, and to learn that I could put something in the ground and see it grow, and go through all of these cycles and see other insects feeding on it. That was like a monumental experience for me, because I was like, oh, I can do something more than cause harm or be destructive or any of the things that maybe adults had said that I was. And so when I had that experience, I thought, this is, I want to share this with others. This is such a great experience. It makes me feel good. And when I've worked with young people in the garden, I think that sense of belonging and that sense of responsibility, it does wonders for feeling really a lot of empowerment in terms of activities, doing really great things, like actually designing the garden with your students is super fun. Oh my gosh, to have them, take these little shapes and make a grid and then actually go out and physically do the construction of the garden, super, super fun. And then even to have a dance party at the same time, to celebrate the creation of that garden space that they designed, and include cooking of the vegetables that they got a chance to grow. The whole thing is just such a life experience. So yeah, there's so many ways to use the garden, but those are ways that I've really loved.
Awesome. So, in talking a little bit more about the school gardens and how they are grown and how they're put together, I was wondering if Lynn and Bridget, you could talk a little bit more about whose voices have impacted the creation of the school garden, and how do you incorporate family and community input into these spaces? And of course, Lanaya, if you have anything too, feel free to throw it in there.
Well, I think I have probably an unusual path to the school gardens. And it started really back in the January of 2019, so not very long ago, which was the formulation of the Green Team. And this grew out of Mayor Tim Keller's initiative to plant 100,000 trees in 10 years in Albuquerque. And he realized that it can't all be done on Albuquerque public land, that people are going to have to be brought into this idea to plant on their own properties and to get the school system involved that has a lot of land out there. And this was a step to deal with climate change. So I actually joined the Green Team as a board member of the Central New Mexico Audubon Society, not as a teacher. So that's how I found out about it. But the team is made up of people from various organizations, and it's very fluid. So it's the city of Albuquerque, primarily open space, Albuquerque Public Schools, and the Nature Conservancy, the Children's Nature Network, the Valle de Oro National Wildlife Refuge, Central New Mexico Audubon, and UNM graduate program in landscape architecture, and other people that have come and gone. And my original idea was to establish a natural habitat area or areas at Hawthorne. So I was thinking it more of a food producing area for other animals and insects rather than food producing for humans. And it was opportunities for students to learn about pollinators and spend time outdoors. And this was my primary objective, and it still is my primary objective. So the Green Team visited the Hawthorne campus many times, including representatives from outside the groups, as M&O has been over to the school a number of times, landscape architects, to see the feasibility of the projects that we've been considering. And I also wanted the students involved with Daniel Webster Park, which is right down the street from our school. And I wanted the students to have input into a natural play area because the city had been putting a lot of money into the park, and it's actually a 4-phase process. And we wanted to include a natural play area, not just the plastic structures that they put in. And we wanted the students to have input into what that would look like. And so that's kind of where I came from with the school gardens idea.
Thank you for sharing about that, Lynn. I didn't really know about the Green Team, so that's great information to know. And definitely, I saw some big excitement about pollinator gardens, and for sure we need to support our pollinators in so many different ways. I'm also coming to APS not as a teacher. Any of the times that I have participated in school gardens, from the first time I was a community partner in school gardens in 2005 until now, has been just to provide teachers and administrators some encouragement and support at how very important it is for kids to be able to get outside and touch the dirt and realize that they are the environment and a part of that land that they are inhabiting, growing up around in. And there's so many educational opportunities that can be had in a garden. So I am always coming as a community partner, and that's still the place that I'm coming from now. Especially this last year, we haven't had any students able to participate in the garden at Van Buren, which has been really, really sad for us. But on a positive note, we've had a lot of community supporters, like neighbors from across the street, who've come in and planted corn and chiles. Now we're having immigrant and refugee families come in and taking over some rows and doing some planting as well. That's really exciting. I definitely have to give support to the administrators that although they're still not feeling comfortable having kids in the school garden, I'm really starting to see the garden become a community space. And I think there's so much potential for that, for these school gardens to also be shared community spaces. That way they're a lot more integrated with the families that the kids are a part of, grocery stores that are around the neighborhood, like community partners can be, churches, so many different organizations, right? We've definitely had some church cleanups in the last year. So that's actually helped with the maintenance considerably. because it does take a lot to keep the garden healthy, and having all these different community partners. It's a great way to have this collaboration. And then, you know, hopefully we will get the students back in, because I think ultimately to have a student feel really held by that community and aware that there's all these community partners, really encouraging them, you know, to grow and to find themselves in the garden, I think is at least that's a place I'm at in terms of partnership and being in the school garden.
Awesome, thank you. Lanaya, can you talk about how the school garden team was built at Hawthorne, and then Lynn, of course, fill in too with Lanaya as well.
I just think it's one thing that's really important to remember. I came into this project where we already had a garden established, and we actually have this year built a second raised bed garden. But one of the things that was really important for us to understand is that the team is pretty fluid. The team that we have this year is not the same people that we had last year, which is not the same people when the school garden started. But understanding that the team just works, it just kind of takes care of itself in a way. I know that I saw a lot of questions on the Jamboard about how do I establish a team and who's responsible, and it's just been really fluid as we've moved this year alone. But then, like I said, it's not been the same people as last year. And one of the things we did was, before we got our drip system totally up and running, we were having to water by hand. And so one of the things I did is I just sent out an email saying, hey, we need some help in the garden. Who would like to help? And we had like 4 or 5 teachers that came up front right away. And Lynn will speak about one of them, but they just came in and said, hey, we'd love to be able to come bring our kids over and water. And we were watering by buckets and watering cans. And we all picked a day. I have a team that comes from Sandia High School that's working from the IB program, and they watered once a week. So it was really, it just really fell into place. It wasn't very hard to get people to want to come over and participate. It also was really kind of cool having Marisa work with the Food Corps and bringing in some of the classes that worked with that, and them being able to participate. And so honestly, the team just kind of fell all together. I don't know if that's how it's always going to be, but just understanding that the team is fluid, meaning there could be people involved this year, but those people may not be involved next year. That's okay. I'm taking over for Lynn, and if I'm not able to do it, I'm sure someone would probably step up to the plate and do it for me. But just building that community within your school and allowing those people who want to help at whatever capacity they can help. One of the other things that we brought up was the sustainability over the summer. We were able to get our drip system installed and functioning. And I live literally like 7 minutes from school, so I ride my bike, and I go over there, turn it on for about 30 minutes, and I turn it off every day. And it's working this month. I mean, it's working this summer. So just as you guys are working with your teams, you're trying to build your teams, just reach out to your school first and start and ask by who would be interested in helping and who would want to be a part of this, but also understand that it's not like a life commitment to this, because things are going to change. People's lives are going to change. People change positions in schools, whatnot, but just keeping that idea of the fluidity moving so that that garden can be sustainable is really, really important to the success of the garden. We do have 2 raised beds now that we're fully up and thriving, and we are also working with the Green Team in establishing another set of gardens in the same area. And so just as we continue to move forward and work, I think that's really important. So just as you're working in your schools with your teams, just keep that fluid movement, instead of thinking that this person always has to be important, this person always has to be in charge, and it's this person's responsibility. So just working together really is very helpful.
And then
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I just wanted to show support for that too. That fluidity is super important, and having the idea that multiple leaders of a garden space is so important. Like that, you know, or maybe it's multiple partners. You know, it's super important that it is shared a shared experience. Definitely, I want to give props to our community schools coordinator, who is really instrumental in us being able to continue to work in the garden. And he is really a great liaison. Like, if you have a community schools coordinator at your school, lean into them, because they have so many other partnerships with folks. Like, they're a great bridge builder. And so just super grateful for Jay Cordova at Van Buren for really building those partnerships. I saw there was some questions like, how can I have community if there's some construction happening here? But really, I feel like the community schools coordinator is a great point person at the school to contact, and then to also help develop and grow those multiple partnerships.
And I wanted to back up, like, from the beginning, and this tags on with Bridget here, is how did I get this program up and running? And because I was new to Hawthorne when I started, and so it was just me. But I have a lot of resources in the community because I've been involved with environmental work forever. And so once I met folks from the Nature Conservancy through the Green Team, I brought the Nature Conservancy in to do a professional development at the school on the benefits of nature for children. And I asked if there were other staff who would be interested. And originally I had 2 second grade teachers and a first grade teacher who were initially interested. And then I brought in Susan Frey, who helps with the UNM graduate program in landscape architecture, to do lessons with my MESA students. So I run a MESA program, which is Math, Engineering, Science Achievement Program. And she came in and did lessons with them on natural play areas. So she could kind of feel out what entices them. What do they want to interact with? And then I met a tree muralist, Judith Shaw, and that was somebody that Kateri actually introduced me to. And she came in and did tree lessons with my MESA students. And we developed a tree concept for a mural, which we did paint on the outside of our school building. And originally the kids were going to do the painting. We had actually had all the design. The next day we were going to start painting, and COVID happened. So eventually she ended up doing the painting, but it still was designed originally from the students. And I had also brought in New Mexico agriculture in the classroom. And I did a lot of the lessons that I learned through them because I had participated in a workshop in my own classes. And I brought in Erin LeBrake. She's the director of Friends of the Valle de Oro National Wildlife Refuge. And she introduced the Albuquerque Backyard Refuge program to the students, which is an initiative that they're following through on. And then my regional MESA advisor, Rick Kuntz, and Ling Faith Hertz, who eventually became the state director of MESA, was also very supportive of the program. In fact, Linnea could attest to this. They actually both came in for a work day, about a month ago or something, to help us get an additional raised bed in. So very involved. In the beginning, I had the kids do a lot of planning, but I wanted them to do more of the hands-on too. I didn't want them just to go on to middle school and never get to do the physical aspects. It was a real struggle because I have to admit, APS wasn't very helpful. You have to work with M&O. They didn't offer a lot of support. And I did have to, go through them and say, I have this idea, I have this idea. And frequently I was turned down. I was turned down because they said you have to have an irrigation system. I'm turned down because there's a rodent population perhaps that we will generate. Finally, I got them to accept a cinder block garden. And they allowed me to do hand watering to get it started. A small start. When I was looking at some of the other pictures that Nissa was showing earlier, I thought, oh my gosh, those gardens are fantastic. And my garden is so little. And I think if people come over and say, that's all you got done in 2.5 years. Well, if it was me doing it, we'd have a lot more. But because I have to work within the system, yes, that's all I have. But I kind of think about all of the information and hands-on learning that my kids have done, that these kids have moved on to middle school, and I'm hoping they'll take that knowledge and experiences with them, so that my garden isn't just that limited structure that we have right now. As far as the cinder block garden, my Mesa students were involved, my 5th graders were involved, some of the 2nd graders were involved. We painted the cinder blocks with outdoor landscapes, fruit, things like that. How did I finance this? I went to Central New Mexico Audubon and said, hey, you know, can you give me a grant to get this thing started? I used some of my Mesa fundraising. The principal bought a lot of materials out of her own pocket. You know, here's a couple $100, go buy the paint you need. Some of it came out of my pocket. I went around town asking for donations. And I'm a member of our school community council, so I have a pretty good relationship with a number of people in the community. They donated, they emptied out cans of paint from their garage, things like that. So we bought soil, tools, seeds. And then when COVID came along, you know, we were shut down. It was actually very disappointing because the next week I had a public showcase scheduled with people from all over, all the organizations, the community coming, and the neighborhood. We were going to display our architectural plans that UNM had drawn up for us. I had a butterfly display, interactive. We were going to do tours of what our ideas were, where we were going. So that was very hurtful. But I continued with the idea that COVID was going to be short-lived. Little did I know it wasn't. I did apply for a food corps grant in the spring of 2020 for this academic year we just finished. I got the grant. It was a virtual program until the school opened back up. And I reached out to the staff to see who was interested. And here's where more people became involved. I had 2 2nd grade teachers, I had 2 4th grade teachers, I had a 3rd grade teacher, a 1st grade teacher, which was Lanaya, and me, a 5th grade teacher, who all were involved in the program throughout the year in some form. And this is where Marisa came in. And she was doing virtual programs. And then I also introduced her to Alma Arango, who's our community director outreach person. And they worked together this past year doing online cooking programs for our families. And they got involved with sharing spices and foods with the community. And like I told Marisa in the beginning, I can't do everything. I have a lot going on. I'm not just doing the school garden. I said, but I know that, you know, Alma is heavily involved with the community. She's got the people and resources, and they did a lot of work together. I think it was very successful. And I know Marisa is able to get plant donations from local nurseries. So, you know, it's nice to have somebody else out in the community helping you get resources. The other thing is I knew that I was retiring at the end of the school year. And so in January, I started looking around for someone to replace me as a Mesa advisor, because I've been involved with Mesa for 17 years and I didn't want to see the program drop, which is Hawthorne has the only elementary Mesa program in the state of New Mexico. And that's because I brought it in there. And Crystal Carmichael, who does behavior support at our school, accepted the position for Mesa. And then Lanaya, she accepted the position of heading up school gardens. And both of them, when I reached out in January, started actively being involved. They didn't say, okay, well, let's wait till May and I'll do something for you. No, they started actively being involved. And then I became the support person for them, because I want to say, Mesa is going to be your program. School Gardens is going to be your program. I want your vision, not my vision. This is what I started. This is what I was thinking. This is what I had opportunities, but I'm here to support you in any way I can. And so that's kind of where we went with that. And then Crystal's also going to be involved with the school gardens through the Mesa program. And then the other thing is the superintendent of open space, Colleen, and then Aaron LeBrake from the Valle de Oro, they spearheaded a grant writing program for the Lands for Public Trust had offered and reached out through us. And Hawthorne became part of that grant. And so we were awarded $12,500 for our habitat project, because this is what I've been working on for 2.5 years. So it's like the initial stage of the habitat project. And we mapped out all of our ideas, where we want to go over the next, 5 years. Walked around the campus, and Kateri, she helped us map it out and forward it on to, APS real estate, because you're always working with other departments. And, what is APS real estate doing? What are their plans for the school? Is where we want to put our natural habitat areas going to conflict with any future building and things like that? Because we heard that there was going to be some new buildings or some remodeling. So we had to look at all of that. So as far as I know, and I haven't heard anything differently, that's in real estate right now. And they are supposed to start with changes in the infrastructure this summer. That's the plans. That was the expectation of the grants. I don't know what that status is, but we wanted to get the irrigation in so that this fall, the kids could start actively planting bushes and creating our natural habitat area. And so that's kind of where I left off here. And then the Lanaya picked up, and Crystal picked up with expanding our raised beds and irrigation system and bringing her daughter in, who's part of a program. Did you want to say anything else about that, Lanaya?
It kind of ties into another question, but I can bring it up now. I know that in some of the chat, you guys have talked about bringing in some of the local high schools. That's been a great success with us at Hawthorne. My daughter's in the IB program at Sandia High School, and she and about 6 or 7 other high school students came on the day that we built our raised bed garden. And it was a fantastic connection between the high school kids and the elementary kids. They will continue working with our school garden program, the high school program, in the fall and into the spring. She will graduate in May. But I'm also working with the IB coordinator at Sandia to continue bringing kids in from the IB program to support the school gardens as well. So just reaching out across those connections around those schools in our area. I just have the connection with Sandia because my daughter goes there, but just bringing in those high school kids, it's really been a great success with us at Hawthorne as well.
And so before I move on, just wanted to kind of recap because, what I'm hearing from all of you is like the school garden teams are being built, of course, within and among the teachers and administration at the schools, but also, what is super integral are the community partnerships, whether it's people that are living in the neighborhood or the different programs and organizations that each of the administrators and schools are involved with besides the school garden, or even the programs and students that are being supported in different ways through the schools. So so just in looking forward for those that are trying to build school garden teams, anybody can be a resource and anybody can be a connection. And you might just be surprised at like who's doing what beyond just teaching and stuff. Well, so I'm going to move forward to something a little bit more concrete as well. So Bridget and Lanaya, can you talk about a go-to lesson that you've used in the garden and what makes this one of your go-to lessons?
I touched on this earlier, but I teach I've taught second grade for 3 years, and now I'm down in first grade. But I've always done the life cycle. We've always done, our science unit has a life cycle. So we look at the life cycles of plants, the life cycles of animals. And particularly this year in first grade, we worked on the life cycle of plants. So teaching students about the soil, the air, the water, and the sun. And then we do a lot of like, we made a flip book where they were able to kind of put some pictures in and be able to kind of draw some ideas. They learned songs. They were able to label the plant. So we did all this kind of like background knowledge or in-class instruction with the students about plants. And it was really interesting. I always love when they're able to kind of give back that information to me. When you say, okay, can you tell me what's the life cycle of a plant? And then they tell you it starts out as a seed, and then it becomes a sprout, and then it becomes a plant and a flower, and it produces fruit, and the cycle starts all over again. But one of the really cool connections was the students being able to go and see them plant their seeds. We started out with bean seeds or beans, and then to be able to see that process happen, and then for them to be able to put it in the garden and then watch that plant grow. And it was really interesting. Our cinder block garden is in the drive-through area of the primary building, and my students became really protective about the plants in the cinder block garden because there's other kids out there, and they would be like, no, don't touch that. Shh, plants are growing. You have, don't look. You can look, but we look with our eyes. We don't look with our hand. They were very protective of those plants. But I think it's because they have this valued interest in that they learned something, and now there's this concrete thing that's growing that was theirs. But they would also tell all the other like students that would ask, like, what kind of plant is this? Oh, that's a bean, or this is a tomato, or these are marigolds, or these are sunflowers, and this is what happens. And it was just so fascinating to hear them have these conversations with their peers that were not involved in the garden directly about what they had done. And so I really loved being able to teach them, especially in the winter when it's, cold and dark, and we start things off in the classroom. And we were lucky enough to come back in April and move those seedlings outside. And then just for the kids to kind of make that strong connection, like I was saying earlier, from the abstract to the concrete with what's growing in the garden. And so it's been really it's been a phenomenal way to teach kids. And also engage them in the learning as well. But they also take ownership of that garden, which also teaches them some other life skills that they need with their learning as well. And so it's just been fabulous for us to be able to use that garden and continue to grow that garden. And they're very fascinated with the high school kids. So when the high school kids come, they have lots of questions for them and lots of things they want to ask, and how can they help, and what can they do to pull things in. So it's been a really great learning experience to have that connection with the littles. That's what I call them. To be able to understand what they're learning in class, as well as putting that into application outside in the garden.
Cool. Yeah, it's really exciting working with younger people, although like definitely, there's so many different kinds of activities. Like the cool thing about a garden is it is a way for kids from, age 2 to my age, getting into middle age to really be able to plug in and learn. Because I'm constantly learning from my garden too. And I think when I've worked with elementary school students, really bringing attention, I think definitely supporting that plant life cycle activity. We did a plant life cycle dance, and I put that in the chat a little bit earlier, but I can include that again. It's super, super fun. It's teaching kids with their whole bodies, and then actually getting them to draw the whole experience out, and then they are growing the whole experience too, right? So that's like an overall experience. But then also building beds. How fun. Like, so, that range could be from just learning how to do this planting to actually doing the construction and incorporating like mathematics into that construction. I think at Van Buren, I was working with Gina Newton, where she was really, really excited about getting mathematics in the garden. There's so many opportunities. It was really cool to see kids out there measuring the beds, talking about the kinds of beds that they wanted to grow in the Sandra Alm garden, in Center Garden. And how much space there were there for the garden. What are the plant needs? What are, where is the light coming from? Like actually doing like a chart of the sun through the sky to figure out what beds would get the most sun. Things like that, those kind of activities that really give kids like that sense of ownership for the garden. So yeah, I'm just gonna reiterate that for sure. I definitely think celebrate important. So whenever, any of the activities that I've done, like we did this activity called Hamburger Plant, which has to do with like, where the food come from. Like we all love, maybe not everybody, but many people love hamburgers, can identify and connect with hamburgers, and really talking about, yeah, where does that hamburger come from? Does it come from a hamburger plant? Well, let's see, and like then starting that investigation. And then finishing that actually by garden, having this experience, talking about where our food comes from, going into the garden and then actually eating it, eating the different components of things that might not be hamburger, and, noticing that, hey, like a lot of ingredients are actually here. Then getting deep and talking about like meat and how much plant material is needed for cows, actually, that, yeah, hamburger from cows, like you can actually get super good. Really our food comes from and what kind of impact on the environment. I think one more activity that I really like that I come back to for all ages is just observation, like taking a quiet place and asking yourself, I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of, and having a garden journal, being able to do that garden journal like over time. When I've looked at some students' garden journals, it's really cool to see how much progress has happened as they've been, going through the year. The kinds of things that they noticed, or, I noticed this little bug like crawling on my hand, to I noticed that my flower, like the one that I grew, it died and I'm really worried, to this whole process of life that's happening right in front of them. And being able to have that record with the garden journal, I think is pretty important. So those are just some activities that I've really enjoyed.
And one more thing I just want to add to that, as you brought it up, Bridget, was, kids, they see bugs and they like want to stomp on them and do everything to kill them. And so one of the other activities we brought into the garden is Miss Howe loves bugs as long as they live outside and not in my classroom. But just being able to like have kids observe what's going on and watching the ants and what their jobs are doing and watching the bees. We have a really big bee population at Hawthorne. We have a huge grass field, and just taking the kids out there to see what those pollinators are doing, and for kids to understand that they have a job, like these bugs have a job. And so I do another lesson with the animals and insects, but just like observing what the bugs are doing. Are these bugs trying to attack you, or are they doing their job? And so it's been really fascinating for them to go out and see like the little ants crawling along in the flower beds, or the bees going from flower to flower, and understanding that the bees are, moving that pollen around as well as getting food, understanding how spiders work. And so is really interesting, from kids wanting to stomp on every ant they see outside. No, they're doing a job. You have to leave them alone. They have a job to do. And so it's just been really kind of cool to see that process as well, that it's not just the plants, but it's the animals that live within those plants for that, and how they work together to bring that process to fruition. So I really like bringing in the bug aspect as well. And Marisa taught us a really cool game, a cool couple of games that involved bugs that they really enjoyed as well. So, there's all kinds of ways to bring it in, but it's really cool when you can see those little kids like, no, don't kill them. They have a job to do. So I really appreciate that as well.
I love all of the things that you all are sharing, because you're answering so many questions with just all of the information that you have. Excuse me. So Lanaya, and of course, if anyone else has some other input on this as well, how has the school garden been used in a way that was surprising to you, or maybe unexpected?
I think the most surprising and unexpected way was just seeing how involved the students became in the garden. especially I teach 6 and 7-year-olds, just how involved they are. And just knowing that what they're like, them understanding what is going on in the garden as well. And I think, Marisa, you might be wanting me to talk about the incident with the kiddo. So my next door neighbor teacher, I call her my team teacher, she was having a kid that was having this meltdown on the day that we were building. And the day that we were building the raised bed with the high school kids and the Mesa kids and everything. And this little boy, he just wasn't having it that day. He wasn't having it at all. And so our redirector, Crystal, came in and got him, and she brought him out. And he went from being totally like off the chart behavior, out of control, to, hey, I want to help. And so we gave him a bucket and we gave him a shovel. And he was just like, he went from like 0 to 60, being so upset and angry and mad and unable to pay attention, to like, he was just like that. It was like a switch went off in his head. So we gave him a bucket, we gave him some gloves, we gave him a 5-gallon bucket. He was filling up soil in the bucket, walking it over, filling up part of the raised bed. And we let him do that for a period of time, for about, 5, maybe 10 minutes. And it was really interesting when my team teacher came out, she was like, oh, so now he's getting a reward. And I really thought, I don't really know if this is a reward. Like, I think in our minds as educators, sometimes we think about what rewards are, but this particular kiddo he just liked being having that physical connection, and that connection into being involved in what was going on outside that day. Up until the point that he was having the meltdown, he didn't know what was going on outside. So it wasn't like he preconceived this. But I really found it interesting to think about, as educators, kind of shifting our focus from, this being a reward for this kiddo, that it was actually a way for him to self-regulate. He was actually able to come like from being way up here to here within a matter of a few seconds, just by picking up a bucket and moving some dirt from point A to point B. And if we want to consider that as a reward, I just really think we need to kind of shift our thinking a little bit. But once we explain to the teacher, he's only going to be out here for 10 minutes and then we're going to get him back into class. We're just trying to get him to regulate. I think then she understood that it wasn't a reward for him outside and helping, as much as it was just a way for him to regulate what was going on with his emotions. And he was able to connect to what we were doing through moving a few buckets of dirt. And so that was really surprising to me, just to see how instantaneously he went from being up here to here. And when we told him it was time for him to go back to class, he took off his gloves, he put down the shovel, he walked back into class. And as far as I know, for the rest of that day or for a period of time, he was okay. So I found that really interesting, just being able to help kids make a connection with the garden in a way that was not necessarily in an educational way, but as a way for them to kind of just reset. And I don't have any idea about this kid's life experience. I have no idea about his home experience. I have no idea if he does gardening at home or has any kind of connection with that. But just knowing that when he walked outside and picked up that bucket and moved, 2 gallons of dirt a couple of times, it was just amazing to see that transformation in him. And so that was like one of the most surprising ways that I saw that the garden really was applicable in many different ways with the students, not just for educational purposes. So I really like how, I just can't say enough about it, but it was just interesting to see. But I also feel as educators, we kind of got to shift our thinking a little bit about rewards versus not, just because I don't think that for him, it wasn't a reward. For him, it was a way to regulate, but other people saw it as a reward.
And I was going to say for the 5th graders was a development of student leadership, is, hauling the heavy buckets of water that were ridiculously heavy. And I'd say, should I put more water in the bucket? I think that's too much for you or something. Oh no, I can do it. I can do it. They were hauling these heavy buckets of water. They were pulling weeds that otherwise they would consider work, but they were pulling weeds, and then they were taking pride in the results. They could see everything that we were trying to nurture around the weeds. They're wanting the flowers to grow, and then fighting over who's going to carry the trash to the dumpster. You know, I can carry all of this by myself. You know, I could do the whole bag. No, you don't have time with the bag. And then you get a lot of trash that blows into the garden, and the kids picking it all up without complaining about it. Like we're picking up garbage. They're picking up the trash to make the garden look nicer. So no one complaining about that. Really excited over the plants that have sprouted. And we did a lot of online growing at home. I was sending seeds home every time we had a curriculum pickup, which with me was like every 3 weeks. And then the kids telling me that their seeds had started, they had sprouts, they were showing them on the camera, and the parents were now adding to their garden. They went out and bought more plants, so they were expanding the garden in the backyard. The fact that the kids were educating their parents about growing. I think those are the things that were exciting for me.
Thank you all. So we're coming towards the end of our time. So the last question I just wanted to ask for you all is, if a teacher or administrator or somebody from the school community was interested in having a school garden at their school or expanding the garden, what would be some advice that you would give them? Bridget, do you want to start us off?
Sure. Be patient. Be patient. You know, I'm sure that our school at Van Buren Middle School is not the only school where administration can sometimes be a challenge to work with. But at least for me, like constantly refocusing, like I'm here for the kids. I'm here for the kids. I'm here for the earth. And sometimes things don't work as fast as I want them to work, but really kind of maintaining that focus of like, this is what I'm here to do. This is my, and also just acknowledging capacity, like for all of us, and especially for you teachers, like, you have to care for yourself in a sustainable way. Like, how much can you really say yes to? Being really honest about that. Along with that, with the patience thing too, like how much energy do I really have to move forward that can permit me? And people, having multiple people on your team, multiple partners, can really help that feeling of overwhelm that might happen when you're first beginning that idea of a school garden. So I feel like that one step at a time, and just taking time to rest and reflect, and bring yourself back to what am I doing? What do I really need to do? I feel like that's something that's super important for me in working in the school garden that I'm working in now.
I wanted to say the same thing. Is I'm always feel like I'm at least doing something. My initial goals and things I want to see faster, but there are things that interrupt that and that are beyond me. But to just constantly think to myself that what I'm doing, I believe in, and that I'm always going forward and involving the kids in some capacity. And that anytime I ask for help out in the community, it's amazing that sometimes I feel like people were just waiting to be asked. I actually have a sticky note right here above my head of people who, say, if you need anything, here's my phone number, here's my email, just ask me. And I never try to ask too much of anybody, but if everybody does a little something, or if I just have a need for something, then I know I have people I can go to. And then people are very appreciative of, what we've accomplished and things like that over time. So, just being patient, and that, knowing that it has kind of a life of its own.
And I just want to add, it's okay to start small. I think in my mind, I have these grandiose ideas of what gardens should be and how big we should be. And like almost to the point that it's overwhelming. And it was really interesting. The architect with the green team had told us, start small and build. So, you know, if you start with one, like I had read in some of the comments about planter gardens, if you start out with planter gardens and that's what you get that year, awesome. And then if you want to continue to grow bigger and, you know, as you guys feel like you can expand, but just think about how you can start with something really small. The space that we have, both of our cinder block and our raised bed gardens are not very big, but the impact is huge. And then us being able to continue growing those spaces little by little over time has been wonderful. But just the idea of starting small before you can get to be something huge, like we saw some of those great gardens that were presented. I'm sure those were not all done at one time. So just that idea of starting small and continue to grow it is a really great way for you to get connected and started with building gardens.
And just, you know, don't overwhelm yourself because you're going to burn out. So I think that's, you know, don't overwhelm yourself. Just do something. That's my philosophy. You know, I'm on a lot of boards for a lot of people, but I'm not the president of any of them because it's like, I can't do that, but I can help you all in some way. So that's how I've kind of managed my time.
Thank you all for your perspectives, your input, your stories. I'm going to share my contact information in the chat for any other questions or if I can be of any other service to people. And I also invite Lynn, Lanaya, and Bridget to share your contact info if you're open to people contacting you about other things as well. Thank you.
Thank you to our panelists for the excellent information and your insights. Lynn, congratulations on your retirement. I will say we're going to miss you, and it's been my pleasure to work with you. So I'm sure we'll see you again sometime soon.
I was going to say, Nestor, I've already been through clearance for volunteer. I'm going to continue with the school garden at Hawthorne. And I want to see phase 1 of this natural habitat area happen. So I'm still going to be participating as a volunteer.
Surprised. I'm glad to hear it. So we are at our lunch break. Again, the Jamboards are there for you if you want to add more information. What we're going to try and do, and I think what will behoove us is that, you know, we're going to try and gather the contact information for our presenters, for those that are willing to share that and haven't already. So there'll be a list of presenters, and also the ideas are being put in the Jamboard. We will send that out to people that attended the Institute. And, you know, I think we need to talk about it a little bit, but, you know, we may even keep that out live for a while so that people can respond to it and it can become that networking forum, so to speak. Somebody needs to remind me how much time we have for lunch. Because it is 11:30.
Yeah, so we'll come back at 12:15.
Okay, so we'll see everybody back at 12:15. Enjoy your lunch, and thank you for your participation this morning.
This meeting is being recorded, just so you all know. Please lift up if that's a problem for anyone in the chat. We can address that now. Guess I should ask that before I start recording. I love it, Gabino, curanderismo vato. All right. So welcome back, everyone. My name is Kateri. I am the school garden specialist here in APS, and super excited to have y'all here for this afternoon session. We're gonna be able to get to know each other and network a little bit more this afternoon. So here we go. In the chat is our list of facilitators for our afternoon network sessions. We have 8 amazing people here today to speak to their passions and what they love to teach in the garden. So this is how it's going to go down. We're going to have 45 minutes. We will open up breakout rooms, and each of our 8 facilitators will be leading a breakout room according to their topic. And so you can join whichever breakout room interests you, which I had assigned before and I need to fix that now. So bear with me. So you can just, I'll do that while everyone's introducing themselves. So we'll have 45 minutes. Every 15 minutes, I'm gonna broadcast a message and say switch. And folks are welcome to play some musical chairs and switch a breakout room and join a different facilitator and learn about a different topic. If you're super interested in the topic or the conversation's just super hot, feel free to stay in that room and keep getting to know that person and the people who are coming through. Yeah, so I am going to open up the floor to our facilitators. Like I said, I'm going to redrop who they are in the chat, and you can find that PDF online. Facilitators, would you please, looks like some of you have already done it, rename yourself with your subject. Looks like y'all have done that. And now I'd really like to demonstrate a principle we use in collective organizing, which is speak for yourself. You know, I could introduce these people, but I would really like them to speak for themselves and present themselves to you in the way that they'd like to. So starting off with Miss Alicia Chavez.
Hey everyone, Alicia Chavez. I'm with Food Corp and also Accesos, and I'll be presenting a framework that includes traditional New Mexico concepts for community building and how to incorporate the garden and art using those concepts.
Thanks, Alicia. And Anna.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ana Flores. I am the behavior redirector at Whittier Elementary School, and my breakout room today will be about social emotional learning, some restorative practices, and how gardening has been incorporated into my personal and professional life with the kids that I work with.
Awesome. And then Carolyn and Gabino. Carolyn.
Hi. My name is Carolyn Baker Nair. I'm the science or STEAM and gardening teacher at Doranis Elementary School. And in the breakout room today, we'll just talk about how STEAM, the letter A in STEAM stand for agriculture instead of art. And I'll give you guys a whole bunch of free stuff you can do with your kids for K-5 students.
Thanks, Carolyn and Gabino.
Hello, my name is Gabino Noriega. I'm an instructor at the Career Enrichment Center. In my breakout room, I'll be sharing with you guys or you all about curanderismo and using it, teaching curanderismo and the practices and traditions through gardening and indoor growing. And so I will make sure to share that information with you all, tell you some of the stuff that has been working for us, and then also provide you all with some resources. So hopefully you want to hang out with me for a little bit. Thank you.
All right, thanks Gabino. And Kelly. Oh, you're muted, Kelly.
well, that's why I don't see myself, I guess. So my name is Kelly Eckel. I am an artist and an art educator. I am currently placed at Adobe Acres, and I have been teaching about pollinators for about 4 or 5 years. So I have a lot of lessons that I do with my kids in my classroom. I usually have between 6 or 7 classes a day, so I don't always get to use the garden, but I would very much like to create a pollinator garden at my school. I also learn from my own yard and what I can do in my classroom from my yard. So I can give you resources. I was also in the cross-pollination show at 516. So I have a lot of art resources as well that I can give you.
Thanks, Kelly. And Reina.
My name is Reina Luz Juarez. I'm the community school coordinator at Whittier Elementary School and a longtime community organizer. And I'll be talking about gardening as a strategy for encouraging family and community engagement in our schools. Thank you.
Thanks, Reina. And Tatiana.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tatiana Trujillo. Currently, I am the farm manager at La Placita Institute and have also done a breakout room. I will be doing, I think I froze, actually.
Maybe if you turn your camera off, it will work better.
Can you all hear me?
It's a little choppy. Maybe try again.
Turn the camera, okay.
We can hear you.
It's a little choppy still? Okay, can you hear me a little more clear? Okay, awesome. So I'm currently working for La Paz. There are many of their garden sites, and I also do, I'm also a food corps member. We'll be transitioning out of food corps soon after serving a year. And in my breakout room, I'll be discussing the essence and the idea around La Cultura Cura and what it means to implement it into possibly your classrooms, and also what does it mean to have traditional food, traditional energy in your classrooms as well. And so I'm hoping that you guys can join me. And be a part of this. I'm really blessed and privileged to be in this. So many people are engaged in wanting to bring change into the APS school systems. I'm a product of the APS school systems, and so to see something like this happening right now is beautiful. So I thank you all for being here.
And Travis, you're last.
All right. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Loud and clear.
All right. Well, honored to be here. What a rock star panel crew here. Wish I could go see everybody's workshop. I am doing history and literacy through New Mexico culture. So I am hopefully potentially the future one of the New Mexico history teachers at Polk Middle School. And also I'm going to be the new garden resource teacher at Polk Middle School and for our surrounding South Valley community. So yeah, our workshop's going to be focused on history and literacy through New Mexico culture. We're going to talk a lot about that. And then also you can see some of our projects we've been doing at Polk. We basically started from scratch. So if you haven't started your garden yet, you might want to join us, and we'll go through, show some pictures of what we did in the short time we had in-person learning this last school year. And then always grounded in the community and our culture and celebrating Nuevo Mexico and all the amazing people in it. Yeah, and thank you for everybody who organized this. I think it's been great, and looking forward to this session.
All right. So I'm going to send everyone into the breakout rooms. I'm trying to assign facilitators right now, but maybe y'all could just jump in there, the room. And hope you have fun. See you back in 45.
All right, well, sounds good. Well, APS School, I am excited to be here. My name is Brittany Lardner, and I am a part of New Mexico Ag in the Classroom. And I had the privilege of working with Kateri as well as Nisa Patterson from NMSU Extension here in Bernalillo County to kind of create this platform that is comprised of different lessons and activities and resources that are not only located here for New Mexico, but also has a nationwide stretch as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and at least share my screen just to go ahead and quickly showcase the, let's see if I can get it up here. I'm going to go ahead and show you all what the live binder looks like, just in case if you haven't had a chance. I know we kind of briefly had talked about it during the APS School Gardens Conference, if you're able to join that. If not, I think Kateri was saying that she was going to send out the video that we pre-recorded for showcasing the live binder. And so this is what the live binder platform looks like. It is free and open access for anybody to use. And so I'll make sure I did send the link in the chat. So you guys will actually be using that link here in just a little bit. We're going to do a bit of a virtual scavenger hunt. So I'm pretty excited about that. And so just looking at it here, we have a couple of different tabs, just so that way you guys have the general basis here. New Mexico teaching resources here at the top left-hand corner, followed by national teaching resources, international teaching resources, where to get local materials, and finally professional development. And you can see within each of those clicks, we then have a lower tiered section of tabs that are located beneath that showcase different subtexts. So kind of gearing towards that whenever we do the scavenger hunt, there are a couple of subtle clues within the verbiage that I've got on our PowerPoint that'll help to kind of help guide you into what section you'll need to go into. And so a lot of these different tabs here have many different resources geared with inside of them. Nisa and Kateri were very beneficial in being able to source a lot of these materials. We worked with the curriculum committee whenever we worked on this for the APS School Garden. So a collection of not only us, but a handful of other educators throughout the community were able to help with that. We've also got tabs for lesson plans, connections for Bernalillo County Extension. If you guys haven't reached out to them, be sure to, because they are a wealth of knowledge, as well as different video content within New Mexico and specifically Albuquerque as well for different educational purposes and different ways of getting connected in the garden a bit more. And so we'll go ahead and click onto the slides here and I will get started. So the first slide here, if you guys look in the comment section, you will actually see the link for the live binder, okay? And you guys will kind of, I'm not sure the best process for you all, but that will be the link that you guys will use to click around and find the correct answers for these kind of quiz questions here that we've got going. This is in a way an attempt for us to help you all start to maneuver and explore throughout live binder on your own. And hopefully you guys will be able to go ahead and find some great content to use in your classroom. So if you don't see it in the comment section, you can type in bit.ly, so bit.ly/APS live binder, and that'll take you straight to our binder. Okay. Now the questions that we've got 7 of them, so hopefully we'll get through them all, but if not, I know we've got a time crunch to meet, and so we'll keep it as timely as we can. The first one to answer correctly will be entered into for a prize at the end on behalf of New Mexico Ag in the Classroom. I've got a little resource package that I will go ahead and make sure to either send to the winner or I can meet you somewhere here in town since I'm located in Albuquerque. And so any and all of those answers that you're going to submit for these quiz questions, you'll go ahead and submit those into the chat feature, and Kateri will go ahead and keep a track on those answers. She's got the answer sheet from our earlier production, so hopefully she'll get a chance to see those. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first one up, it says outdoor classrooms can have many benefits for our students, whether it's physically, mentally, or spiritually. When you go outside with your students, it's important to learn, have fun, and be safe. From learning about tool sanitation to physical distance in and around the garden, SWAP and Polk Middle School teacher Travis McKenzie, along with their crew of engaged youth, have some good tips and tricks to share. How long is this video? Guidance for COVID-safe gardening and outdoor learning. Now, your big hint for looking for this is that you're going to look for the title that says COVID-safe outdoor classroom practices on Vimeo.
We got a winner. Looks like the first person was Adrian Greaser.
Okay. Perfect. So if Kateri, if you can at least write down their names, at least we're going to go ahead and keep track that way. I think that'll be helpful. Man, I thought that one was going to take just a little bit of time. That was fantastic. And this might go quickly then. Okay, so we've got our first winner for that one. Good. Okay, there are many places to visit in ABQ. Located on the Rio Grande Flyway, the park offers excellent bird watching opportunities throughout the year. There are indoor and outdoor wildlife viewing areas overlooking ponds, a native plant garden, and a pollinator garden, as well as access to city managed trails to the Rio Grande and Bosque. Click on the correct link to find what the park also features. Share 2 of the 5 park features. Now the hint is this picture. Whenever you click on the right link, you're going to see this picture as one of its main postal pictures for the website. So that'll kind of be a bit of a clue for you. All right, so it looks like people are typing in it is the correct location, but yeah, we need two options. What are the park features? Okay, I see Jessica Hudson. I think, is that the first one there, Kateri? I haven't seen any others besides hers. Everyone else has been typing in
That looks like the first one.
Center, but I think Jessica Hudson's got it with the hiking and birding. So good job, Jessica. You'll be entered into our drawing at the end. Way to go. Okay.
Is there a way you might be able to share how you're finding these?
Oh, yes, definitely. Let's see here. On my
Wi-Fi.
That's the bottom. Wi-Fi is one of them for that nature center. How about we'll go ahead and go through. Okay. Kateri, do you feel like it might be best for me to maybe pop out real quick and share with that real quick, and that way they're more familiar?
Sure.
Okay. We'll take a quick pause on that then. Good idea. I appreciate you sharing that. Okay, can you guys see the screen here that shows the school garden page or the live binder page, Kateri?
No, we're not seeing it.
It's black. Can you see it, Marisa?
Okay. Maybe. How about now?
Now it's good.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so for that one, whenever I gave the hints of going along the, let's see here. We'll just read it real quick. So that last one said there are so many places to visit in ABQ. Whenever it's bolded like that, that kind of gives the clue that we're going to go ahead and be within the section that says places to visit within ABQ. So we know that we're going to be in the New Mexico teaching resources. because it's places to visit in ABQ. And then within that section, there is a tab that says places to visit in ABQ, and you'd click on that. Okay. And then from there, the next little blurb about it was talking about the Rio Grande and the Bosque and parkways. And so in going with that, the Rio Grande would be the closest fit for that. In clicking multiple ones though, if you were to click on it and it popped up the feature, you would see that big picture of the bird, the Roadrunner there. Does that help? Hopefully. We'll go ahead and try this next one here, and then shortly after, once we get an answer submitted, then we'll walk through that one as well, okay? So this one, it says, New Mexico has a rich culture in its water, land, and people. As for the land, knowing that crop health is directly related to health of the soils, the Crown Canyon Archaeology Center has compiled lessons and videos to share the story of the Hopi people and how what practices have been used on their farms. This lesson teaches students to witness and understand that soil can store water for the needs of humans and plants, and invites them to practice applying modern soil testing techniques. What grade level is this specific lesson geared towards? So there's a couple of different hints in there. The water, land, and people are connected. It's bolded. So that means that that's going to be the textile we're going to click on within the New Mexico Teaching Resources. And I think that's all the hints I can give. The bottom there, it says, hint, it's necessary to know your soil. That might be a helpful giveaway as well.
Looks like Ben Hameen has already got it. 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Perfect. Yes. Way to go. So on that one, you guys will go ahead and click on over to the School Gardens page here. And so we're going to be in the New Mexico Teaching Resources, Water, Land, and People. We'll click on that tab. And then it referenced the Crow Canyon Archaeology Center, which is one of the main topic tabs here. And then since I said it in a specific way of know your soil, it would be this tab right here to click on. It pops up the lesson plan, and there are the grade levels right there. So definitely some great opportunities here, different lessons that are right at our fingertips, easy to print out and utilize in your classrooms. Okay. We'll move on to the next one here. Number 4, it says New Mexico Ag in the Classroom is a statewide nonprofit program that connects agricultural education to K-12 educators and students through classroom presentations, public engagements like the state and county fair presentations for the public, and teaching and teacher training / network or workshops. Our website hosts lessons, activities, and additional free resources that are in connection with the National Ag in the Classroom program. Using the curriculum matrix search bar, type the word water and click enter. How many lessons are associated with that key term?
So it looks like Ben Hameen got it first this time, and I was wrong last time, and it was Sandra S. So we'll write both of you down.
Okay. No problem.
And I think that's all the time we have for that one.
Okay, perfect. Well then, Kateri, if you could just do a quick little, maybe like a shuffle with the papers there since you've written down their names, and go ahead and draw one, and that will be our winner. While she's doing that, you guys, I'll just showcase to you where they found that out. So New Mexico Teaching Resources, there is a tab specifically for New Mexico Ag in the Classroom, and it actually pulls up our website directly. And so this is our curriculum matrix. Once you type in the key term you're wanting to search, or at least find a lesson that's connected to it, you can browse down, and there are 30 over correction, there are 40 lesson plans connected to or associated with water. And then there's tons of companion resources and different books. So definitely a great resource to be a part of your search. All right, Kateri, what do you got for us?
I'm going to ask Marisa to pick.
Okay.
Okay, I guess we can cut them off. One, two. Okay, so a little bit smaller. And where is what are those? Ben.
Awesome. Way to go. Ben, I will go ahead and privately message you to go ahead and see what works best for you, whether it's mailing you some supplies or maybe meeting up at like maybe the Target off of Paseo. That seems to be a popular spot for teachers here in Albuquerque to meet up at. So providing you with some resources on behalf of New Mexico Ag in the Classroom. I want to thank you all for being a part of this. I know for during the summertime, it can, you know, obviously the process for training never ends for teachers. So I just want to thank you for all the hard work you all continue to do, and I'll pass it back over to Kateri.
Thank you so much.
I'll just jump right in because I'm the next presenter. For those of you who might have missed my name is Daphne Strader. I'm the director of the Coordinated School Health Department. And what we're going to get into next is actually going to give you a little bit more time with this binder because there's so many amazing, someone just needs to mute, please. Sorry. So what we're going to do next is kind of a make and take. And in your case, it might actually be more like a adapt and take. So if someone from the committee will drop in the chat the link to the guidance document, you're going to actually have two things working for you. You're going to keep going through the same link that you were just in reviewing the live binder that Brittany did such a great job introducing us to. And then there's actually a Google form that you could use that will help you to make sure that you keep track of what the lesson plan that you were interested in, what adaptations that you're making, and go from there. So I'm going to give you about 10 minutes or so to just go through the live binder, spend a little bit more time on the live binder. And what your plan is right now is to identify at least one, maybe one or two lessons that you would be interested in looking deeper at and adapting and utilizing in your classroom. Okay, Randy, we should be back.
Welcome back, everybody. We're coming to the end of our day, and we would like your feedback. Feedback is always important to what we have a exit survey for you, and we ask that you complete that for us as soon as possible. In fact, if you could get that to us today, we would really appreciate it. And there's a you can just click there on the link, and if that doesn't work for you, we'll be glad to put it in the chat so that we can get you, especially if you're receiving a stipend. I know that we had such an amazing response that we weren't able to provide everybody with a stipend, but if you're getting a stipend, we definitely need to have the exit survey. And we're asking that we can have that back by the end of the workday today, because we have to turn around and, you know, APS timelines for finances. I think some of you are very familiar with that. Okay.
Randy, you're going to have to cut it and put it in the chat, please.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to.
You're going to want to exit the presentation.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
I think I have it here.
Do you have it, Tara?
I just put it in the link in the chat. Does that work?
Okay, thank you. So, so then our final slide, if I were still sharing, would be a thank you. And I would, on behalf of the committee, first of all, I want to thank the committee for and really a quick turnaround in putting this together. And I want to thank our presenters. And for those of you who came on and facilitated and presented, thank you so much. We appreciate your commitment to School Gardens and sharing the wealth of information, such a vast wealth of information with the people that we had sharing with us today. And also thank you to you, the teachers, that all of you that joined us today. It is summertime. We had the craziest year ever, probably at APS. And here you are, and you're learning, and you're wanting to get new information and resources so that you can go back and teach those kids again in the fall. And I'm hoping that we're going to be back live and in living color next year in person. So again, thank you everybody for being a part of the conference. We appreciate you, and we hope you have a great and awesome summer.
So please complete the exit survey before you leave. We'd really appreciate that.